And we are live. Welcome to Life Action Roleplay with
Cynthia Marie.
Kai Norman.
and Ryan Omega. So, for today, our topic is um, when you have. Oh God, I don't even have it in front of me. Basically, it's imposter syndrome, but I think we had a more creative title, and I literally am blanking on this title right now.
We are so prepared.
Yeah,
We
So
are
so
so
prepared.
prepared.
so
Wait,
prepared.
what is it called?
I'm gonna
I
find.
just tweeted this.
I know it's like I also just
When
have.
you feel creative, your creativity is not enough.
Yes, thank you. Weirdly,
Hmm.
so weirdly enough, full disclosure, just before coming on, I had a slight panic attack of imposter syndrome. So it feels very appropriate right now to be doing this topic. It's like,
Yes.
oh my goodness, like everything that could go wrong went wrong. But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna handle it. But I'm like, oh my god.
Yes.
So that was like, and it's weird because I think we're all dealing with a little bit of that today.
A little bit.
Um, yeah, just a little bit. Next thing is, what are we drinking today?
Well,
Uh,
I'll go.
water. I was
Yeah.
like, I think we all got LARP this weekend, so I chose water to start the hydration.
Yep. Drinking the many drinks of the liquids.
Yeah, I have something in a D&D cup, electrolytes.
Smart.
It
Um,
almost looked like that the spoon was about to like start circling by itself, and I was like, Ryan, are you doing magic right now? What's up?
woo! Woo! Next, shoutouts. Does anybody have any shoutouts that we want to give for today?
I got some. I got some.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna shout out our Twin Mass community because we're about to go like in the deep, in the mists, and I'm really excited to see people. I was just telling a few people I have not large group peopled in 2 years outside of like going to the office and interacting with people, which is still not a lot. So like to be in a huge setting with people is going to be a lot. So I'm excited and nervous to see everyone. But special shout out to Jesse Thaxton, who is putting together an amazing costume for me this weekend. I'm really
Oh wow.
excited.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to debut a character. An NPC, so my long-term NPC. So as a staff member, we're encouraged to have NPCs that aren't just like a kill on sight kind of situation, but like just want to like engross yourself in the story so that you can kind of be around the PCs and understand kind of what's going on. So built a character that I'm hoping it's long lasting. Don't kill her if you see her, please. Um, but yeah, I'm excited because we worked on a concept and there was a lot of like, are we doing this? Are we not doing this? Are we doing this? Are we not doing this? And then we're like, okay, we're doing this. Let's go. Like, so I just tested the contacts and the hair extensions yesterday, and they look awesome. So I'm excited.
Awesome.
Nice. Kai, any shout outs from you today?
Um. Oh my goodness. I feel like I right now I am. I do not have any shout outs to make, especially. I feel like I've just kind of been brain jelly recently and just kind of like on simmer mode. So yeah, I don't think I've got any shout outs this time around.
All right, no problem. My shout out is going to go to the cast of Boardroom Fay Court, uh,
Hell yeah.
because you're all good beans. You're all also very artistic, but it's also you're. It's interesting when you have a group that actually starts making media because they are have become fans of the show that they're in.
Hmm.
There's going to be some that I wish I could talk about, but we're going to use some of that in upcoming episodes. And it's just, they just get really inspired and excited so that they've kind of just made stuff. As well as I didn't realize until afterwards that half of them could draw, half of them are artists. And I shouldn't be surprised, and yet at the same time, it was kind of amazing, just seeing like just drawings that they've made of their characters or of other characters. So it's kind of cool.
I love it when the artists get to kind of spread their wings on whatever kind of games they're getting up to. Like,
Mhm.
I I mean, that's literally what I've been getting up to recently. I've been making like a cool vampire hunter kit and stuff, and that's been a good distraction for a few things and a good time. So,
Mm-hmm.
On.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, I say right on.
Yep.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So today's topic, we talked about it at the very beginning, and we picked this topic because last time we were here, this struck a chord in several people that were listening, and just in general, about people who have creative doubts or full-fledged imposter syndrome. So the thing is, you don't have to necessarily have imposter syndrome in order to have creative doubts when it comes to making things and then feeling that it's not good enough or it's not valuable enough. It can get crippling when that extends to just aspects of your life and you being able to interact with people. And I know for me, it is um, crippling sounds like a horrible word, but it kind of is. If I hadn't had this for as long as I had, I think I wouldn't be struggling as much now, you know, um, because it. I guess for me, like not thinking that you're worthy enough to submit for jobs that you know that you can handle because you have years of experience, because you feel like you are only good enough to do the entry level of anything, and you only are good enough to ask for the minimum wage because you feel that's all you deserve. That's what I've done for many years. So this is like a really, really, uh, it's an important subject, but it's a hard subject for me.
Yeah, so I wanted to start off with the definition of imposter syndrome so that we can kind of understand the difference between having a panic attack about something that you're doing and then when you're experiencing imposter syndrome. So,
Mm-hmm.
just a quick wiki off of healthline.com.
Mm-hmm.
Imposter syndrome, also called perceived fraudulence, involves feelings of self doubt and personal incompetency that persist despite your education, experience, and accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
To counter these feelings, you might end up working harder or holding yourself to even higher standards. So, just to kind of split the two, your panic attack is your visceral, your physical, mental response to this feeling that you're having of the root cause being potentially imposter syndrome. So I just want to
Mm-hmm.
be able to separate the two. Yes,
Yes.
they coincide and it wreaks havoc all over your body,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to be very clear of the two different ones where one is a symptom of the other.
Yes. Um,
Uh,
um, Known people who have imposter syndrome: Albert Einstein, Maya Angelou, um, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Emma Watson, Tom Hanks. The list is. I know Matt Mercer has it as well.
mhm.
Like, there's a lot of people that we know, not just famously, but just among our circles. And according
Yeah.
to NeuroNation, um, in the early 1980s, found that nearly two out of every five successful people actually experience this, which is a lot. That's 40% of successful people. So I kind of extend that to almost all creatives.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, I can share my story if you'd like. I actually got to talk about it on Dell Talks. So Dell hires people to be interviewed about certain topics, and I got to speak about imposter syndrome, which was very interesting because I did not categorize it in my head as imposter syndrome. And the more and more I started talking about my story, the more and more I was like, I have imposter syndrome. So this happened at the top of this year. So my whole 2021 has been me researching, analyzing, and going to therapy about it. So I'll keep my story short and concise. Most of you know I am a systems engineer in aerospace. It's not the degree that I got. I went to school for dance and choreography, but is the profession that I chose, and I am very happy with my decision. However, it's taken me a lot to be happy with that decision because it's very much outside of the realm that is creative in terms of performative creativity. So I'm now working there for 10 years, a good chunk of that time not accepting that I was an engineer. And I had to keep working harder to prove that I know that I didn't have an engineering degree. So I had to keep proving to people that I was worthy enough or good enough to be working here, even though I had a dance degree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that manifested in a lot of different ways, which is probably where my anxiety actually kind of started stemming from at work. So to keep it as short as possible, coming back around full circle and understanding that I did the hard work and my experience shows for 10 years that I am an engineer. I don't have the degree, but I have the experience to
Mm-hmm.
be that person. So a lot of the engineers that I talk to, I often say, "Oh, I'm an analyst, I do this." And one of my friends sat me down and she was like, "Do you realize like what you're saying is you're talking yourself down and that you're not recognizing that you are one of us?" She's like, "You even did it the harder way. We all, excuse the word, cheated and went to college to get that title. You worked 10 years to get the title that we all wish we had."
Oh
She
wow.
goes, "So you, above anyone else, is an engineer." And I was like, I never, it was mind blowing for me, especially because having doing the research of like trying to compensate for not having the degree. I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like I am an engineer. I just never processed it like that. So I guess the moral of the story for people, Ryan included,
Yeah.
when you have the experience, don't talk yourself down or try not to talk yourself down. I know it's hard,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you see people excelling, when you see people who have the right credential or you perceive as the right credentials. Like you have experience behind you, and that in itself is so damn valuable that people who may not have that experience may not understand the value of the experience, if that makes sense, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
could always see like a bright-eyed bushy tail person coming into a job for the first time who's like, "Oh, I know that better than you." You're like, hold on, I have X and Y Z experiences. Why don't you listen to what I'm trying to say, and then maybe we can work together to make this work? You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
we remember your experiences is one way that I've been learning to combat my imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for me, what eventually led me to a better place, even though I still, have imposter syndrome, was almost like, weirdly enough, an acknowledgement from a voice that is outside you to confirm, just like that person did for sin. It's like that, first of all, kudos to that person. That is amazing to give that realization, that epiphany to you. Weirdly enough,
Yeah.
I got mine from Dungeons and Dragons. It was very, very weird. It was like, of all the places to get that confirmation, when I was hired to be a game designer for Dungeons and Dragons, um, the they said, okay, well, the going rate for a game designer is this, and I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what? Uh, but you can literally hire anyone else in the world. Why? Why are you hiring me? There are people that are far more qualified. And then that's what was going in my internal brain as soon as I heard it. And then the one thing that stuck with me was, it's because you have an expertise in LARP is the reason why. And I'm like, wait, oh, wait. And then so I began to, weirdly enough, accept it, because it's like, well, that's one thing I absolutely know I have. Um, and just having that validation from a company that is that big told me, oh my God, I now have a value that I didn't think I have, so that going forward, I know that I'm not a minimum wage person. And I've at least understood that, because sometimes it does take someone who can validate from outside. And I try to do that with people on my shows. Like, I kind of tell, especially people, or people of color, or people who are LGBTQ, that yes, you are talented and you need to be on a show. Like, I'm not big, but here's mine. Act the hell out of it. And I've been rewarded with people with incredible talent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think thank you for sharing that, Ryan, and also Sin, thank you for sharing yours. Um, I definitely feel like I have a lot of imposter syndrome, but I feel like I have a weird mix of like I don't feel like I've quite hit that mark yet. Like um I don't feel like I've quite hit the confirmation steps for it yet. Um so much of, and that might just be me being a little pessimistic on things. But it seems like so much of kind of how we are as people is entirely kind of shaped by our experiences and everything like that. And I have to wonder, in regards to imposter syndrome, how much of that is necessarily learned versus more in our nature as a person. Like, there's, I feel like it's probably more learned, but I might be wrong here. What do you think on this?
I definitely think it's learned. I just don't know from what aspect it's learned. Is it a
Yeah,
familial
yeah.
thing that you like walked into, or because something that I've been evaluating in therapy, right, was I keep saying, gosh, I wish I was still that same girl 20 years ago, that girl who was completely fearless and just like walked into any situation and was super excited to just freaking have an adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I didn't get the conditioning of imposter syndrome until I was an adult, until people, until I felt like I was getting, like I was in places where people were like, you're not that good, or you don't belong here, or certain, like I don't feel like I had that in my adolescence. So for me, in my experiences, I think my conditioning happened um, outside of my familial um, area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trying to figure out where I might have gone mine. I suspect, for me, a lot of it did come from a combination of being in the closet for so long.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, I mean, keep in mind that I grew up as a kid in the 80s where the talk about AIDS was rampant, and being gay was associated with not just a moral failure, but also a death sentence.
Mm.
And I grew up with a dad who I've known his history for beating up kids for being gay. So that was hard. But he was also a brown man that came to from the Philippines to Oakland when he was 13 and already had to prove himself. And then even as he got to be like work in Mare Island, he was the leading civilian person on that shipyard in a person of color. Like he was one of two people who were like brown and was at the top level of the shipyard. And there was always this thing about my dad that he kept trying to prove himself. Especially for him, he was one of 12 kids, and when he saw that my dad was all his dad was working two jobs to um, to send his kids to college, my dad couldn't do that to him. He wanted to be an engineer, he couldn't. So what he did is he joined the Air Force. He joined the Air Force, um, got into things. When he got out, then he got a civilian job, inspecting nuclear submarines. So he did become one, but he had to had he had so many barriers in front of him just from who he was that he said, "Well, if I can do it, Ryan, you can also do this." So he didn't pay for my college. He said, "You should join the military," and he actually, weirdly enough, made things deliberately hard for me. um, but that was because of how he grew up. But he also, the whole thing being in the closet also made it hard.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When it comes to parenting, I mean, I don't really plan to become a parent, but I do kind of feel like your objective as a parent is to give your children an easier life than you, not a harder or equally hard. But I get that is dramatically off topic, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's not because oh man, I can't believe I'm going to admit this right now. Part of my imposter syndrome actually comes from my parents. My parents gave me one of I think a really good life, or at least a really good head start on everything. And because they did so well coming out of the ghetto, I put this huge standard on my life that I had to meet this bar sort of
Mm-hmm.
situation. So I don't think that Kai, what you mentioned was outside of the realm at all. It
Mm-hmm.
very much circles right back into it.
Hmm. A lot of my imposter syndrome is kind of centralized on like what I'm trying to do professionally. The irony being, I don't know what I'm trying to do professionally yet. I'm still figuring that out. But right now, I'm running a LARP, and I'm hitting all of the hallmark, kind of markers of it being an exceptionally good game. The community is very self-aware and very kind to each other, and like people are having fun. We have an immersive time. Like it's all very like on target. But I think one of my major impediments is California rent, and I have had places quoted to me for a single weekend. Anything ranging from the good ones are about 2 to 3 grand, and I know there are a lot of event runners for LARPs across the country that would be like, "What the hell? That's way too much." Because I know of summer camp venues that cost like $500 at during their off season, and it's like, holy crap, that would be amazing. But no, like the majority of what I have to do is usually between $3,000 and $4,000 to run an event, and that's just talking about like the site rental and those kinds of like lesser things, rather than just also the intent of like paying my staff and things like that. Um, I'm an awful capitalist. I try to make sure my employees have better pay than what most LARPs would pay them. I try to spread the wealth, and I think a lot of my uh, doubt in myself, that kind of imposter syndrome, kind of stems a bit from the idea that I wouldn't have started this LARP without. When my father passed away, he left a portion of money for me, and I put that into trying to run the LARP. I put it in an account and kind of, tried to push forward with it and see if I could give it a good, honest hit. And that might not have been the best idea, not with, like the complicated relationship with my father and all that kind of stuff. It unintentionally kind of similar to how you were saying, Sin, about your pressure that you've applied on yourself because of your family, or Ryan, some of the pressure that was applied to you. Um, I've definitely, without my father being really in my life, and especially when he passed away, he wasn't in my life. I've applied a lot of pressure on myself to try and meet expectations that have never been communicated by him ever, but I feel I should somehow follow. And being self-aware of that, or anything that's causing you your imposter syndrome, I've heard of it referred to as shadow work, like
Mm-hmm.
taking the time to actually think about the deeper reasons about why you feel certain ways about the things you do. Um, a lot of that is taught in therapy, and a lot of that is very, very helpful for, you know, moving forward and growing as a person. So, like, to any of our listeners that do feel like they aren't quite enough, or they feel like they're never enough, or if they're struggling either short term or long term, you have my sympathies, and I really hope that you can, kind of pull through it, because I think all of us get it. It's wild, and yeah, I feel like I'm kind of rambling, so I'm going to shut up now. But yeah.
No, I think you touched on the point that I wanted to make to Mod Light 83. Just to
Mm-hmm.
reiterate, if anyone didn't see the question, Is there a way to get out of the rut of feeling that you've got to prove yourself to your parents when you feel like you are the black sheep or a failure? So a lot of what you just mentioned, Kai, in terms of solution, is I wholeheartedly agree. Therapy is your friend. I understand that not all of us can afford it. There are so many resources out there that you can go and get some sort of therapy or talk to a third party individual. If again you don't have the money and you feel like, oh, I could just talk to my friend, realize that the impact that you have on your friend can also be negative when you're trying to unpack this sort of stuff. So if you can, a, take care of your friend that you're talking to and make sure that they're okay with taking on that burden, because it is a lot. B, like I said, there are other resources out there. We can look up a couple of websites. It's fairly easy to find. And I know that there's some free programs out there that will help with therapy, particularly with like I know anxiety and stuff like that. There's a website. I will look it up real quick. I'm losing words here. But therapy. Like literally, I cannot talk it up enough. Like even if you think that you don't need it, like just go talk. Go have like 1 or 2 or 3 sessions. 3 sessions would probably help. 3 sessions, like just go talk to someone because it is life changing.
One of the spins that I've heard on people perceiving therapy, because obviously at least culturally in America, which is where the three of us have grown up, or at least partially grown up. I grew up in England until I was 19, but still the fact still remains on it. I feel a lot of this kind of idea of being raised with the expectation or the idea of if something's wrong, that's when you should go seek out help. And therapy can be for that kind of, curative kind of element or treatment sort of thing. But it's also really good maintenance on just you. A couple of the analogies that I've seen is one is the idea of like if you don't do proper maintenance on a car, it will decide when to break down and when it needs its attention to be given. And if you treat your body or your mind in the same way, you are going to break down at the least convenient moment and have very little say in how to put yourself back together. So preventative maintenance is, a form of preventative maintenance is therapy. But one of the other ones is rather than the idea of like, I don't need to go see a therapist because I don't have anything wrong with me. One, it's not necessarily true. And two, even if it is completely true on that feeling that you have, I really like the phrasing of it being more sort of like, the idea, I'm struggling to remember it exactly, but it was along the idea of why do you think that you do not deserve or would not benefit from having an impartial person to talk with and help you navigate and observe your way through certain emotions, feelings, aspects, that type of stuff. Like the more you talk about something and you work your way through it, the healthier it will usually be. Yeah. Sliding just slightly back, a few people in chat talking about kind of being children in the 80s, and I'm also one of those. And I think part of my doubt in myself on that kind of imposter syndrome is the fact that like I was raised on the idea that if you are good at something and you're passionate about it and you try really hard and you bust your ass and everything, success will come to you. And that is a lie. It is not necessarily true at all. If you do have those wonderful things come to you after you are giving it your all, then you're one of the lucky ones, because there's a lot of people who the right time and place is far more important than the other things. That doesn't mean that hard work cannot pay off, but it is that kind of combination and that factor, and kind of coming to that realization, at least for me, definitely took the wind out of my sails, because with my LARP, I hit so many of these amazingly good points about what makes it so invigorating and satisfying. I'm cultivating a really awesome community that is looking out for each other and being aware of when people show up and start being, kind of predatory, and they get kind of told and confronted in a polite way of like, hey, we don't play that way. And those people either adjust or they find out they can't exist in this environment because they don't want to change and they leave. Likewise, just the healthy way of playing and checking in with each other, making sure people feel safe out of character in order to have these amazingly deeper dives into the characters that you play. And then all of the crazy batshit story that we get up to and all the monsters and everything. Like the way we get to play with our players is deeper, and we can do more because there is that significantly stronger bond of trust. But at the end of the day, it still doesn't, pay all of the bills, as it were. And coming to that realization of like, that is why I feel like an imposter, because of the almighty dollar. And feeling some of that pressure, the source of your imposter syndrome can come from a lot of different things. At least that's my observation.
Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to answer Modlight A3's question.
Heck yeah.
Is there a way to get out of the rut of feeling that you got to prove yourself to your parents when you feel like you are a black sheep or a failure? So for me, I was lucky in that even though my dad did things that way, I had my mom who was very much my cheerleader. Like, I love my mom because she was willing. I don't know how to explain this without saying this way. It's like, my mom is willing to be weird.
Oh yeah.
My mom was, not your typical Filipino mom. She, when she saw a protest of gay weddings, like outside of her car with my very conservative titas, right? She calmly rolled down the window, and she looked at them and she went, "Never, never!" like screaming at like all the gay all the protesters of gay marriage, and then she rolled the window back up, and then they said, hey, that's not polite. And she goes, who cares? And then and I'm like, that's my mom. When I was very interested in anime and in video games, she didn't say, well, Ryan, could have been a doctor or he could have been an engineer. She goes to my titas and my uncles and says, do you know what Ryan does? He plays video games for a living. And she brags about it, and I'm like,
It's adorable.
And now it's weird because now I have cousins that are like, you actually now do game stuff and that's your living. And for the longest time, it was not a source of pride. I was the black sheep. And, I'm very, very lucky to have my mom. I'm incredibly lucky because she is not typical at all, and she's not afraid to be weird. Like, if my mom were younger, I wouldn't put her through it now. I think she would be the type of person to try a LARP.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, and even though, like, I am not a dad, I do treat some people that I do mentor almost like kids in a way. I mean, not really, more like an uncle. Not really kids, because that's, and I want them to do well, and I will be their cheerleader, because really sometimes, like, if it wasn't for my mom, who was my cheerleader, like, I don't know where I'd be. I think I would be dead. I honestly think I would be dead if it wasn't for my mom. My mom, like, having someone be your cheerleader is incredibly, not your mom, but, just having a cheerleader is incredibly important. Someone who believes in you, sometimes it just, sometimes you don't even go the right way, and just having the patience to kind of go, okay, and just putting things into perspective for you. But also, what allowed me to embrace being the black sheep was kind of reframing things in my own way, rather than defining success as having a lot of money, having, a career that is prestigious. I had to define success on my own terms. I had a meeting with a friend. I made a game and a few people looked at it. I made a channel and I was happy that 5 people came. Like that. I had to redefine success on my own terms. And eventually, like, you will see it grow, as long as you're persistent. And even though we aren't talking about the whole idea of, like, let me phrase, my brain is in one place, so I'm just gonna, like, go into this other place. Sin. The thing is, for you, it's like, even though you've had, like, big breaks and all, like, especially with something like Elegant Night, which is, like, very obvious, right? I know that you yourself put your heart into your choreography, to every audition, to every stream that you have been on. You choose actively all those things as opportunities. And because of that, there was no doubt that, one of these things may have blown up. But the reality is, you chose a path of success with everything you did. Kai, with you, like, the way you sculpt things, the way you put your efforts into the LARP in order to make things better, every single time, every single choice, is why you will succeed. Whether an opportunity blows up big or not, you will succeed because you made that choice every single time. For you to beat that imposter syndrome, that is a fight you have every day. You choose your success. It does not have to be always validated in front of others. Luckily, I had a mom that validated it. But sometimes you have to choose your own validation. Sometimes those victories can be small. And sometimes they can blow up. But in the end, you choose your route to success regardless of what the hell other people say. And if you define your success with happiness, then choose happiness. And choose that route regardless of what people say. The only thing is, make sure that you do not harm yourself or others intentionally, because you do not have to step on others in order to have that success. I don't know where all that came from. It just kind of, like, it just downloaded into my brain.
Pretty amazing. And not a dry eye was in the house tonight.
I knew this topic was going to be really hard because I've been dealing with it for the past year, but specifically the past week when LA by Night ended. It's so bittersweet. I feel like I'm going to become irrelevant now because LA is over.
No, you refuse to accept that.
Hell, I put it out there, you guys. Like, that's how I've been feeling all week. So I've been trying really hard to put those thoughts aside and be like, okay, look what I've accomplished. This is what I've been dealing with. I can do this. So, woo, Ryan, when you said all of that, it just kind of helped shift my mind, which is why all the tears started coming out. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
It's okay.
You don't have to apologize.
Huh.
I mean, I know, like I said, I know more things will come to you because you choose what you choose every single time. And that is different from saying, I am waiting for one big break. In fact, it was Kelly D'Angelo who recently talked about this a couple of days ago. She said, it's not your one big break that makes you. It's the fact that you are surrounded by a community of people, and therefore you're always working with so many opportunities. In fact, I feel like the only reason why the channel is even as big as it is now is because I have casts of really cool people. I have a network of really cool people. I have Sin and Kai. I mean, like, shoot, I'm super excited every time we do a show. It's sort of like, it doesn't matter how long I've known them. It's like, I'm still excited. Why wouldn't I be? These people are super cool.
Yeah. I honestly don't know how to top this. Like that, like what you said was just, it was magical. So let's try to end on a good note. We have about 10 more minutes left. Let's talk about happy things. Like, how do you get out of it, right? Like what Ryan said is really evaluating your life's accomplishments, which is often what I do in terms of therapy, or at least my therapist has told me to do that. Like, just really looking at the things like that you do have or you have accomplished, because those are the things that are gonna that make up your life. So anytime I have a like dark thought, or like what I just said of like feeling irrelevant, I try to look back on all the things that I have done to feel a little bit more accomplished. Kai, you got something to add in there?
Well, for starters, I was going to say, even though Allied by Night is wrapped, that's one of your big major projects. Okay, what has just happened is you now have more free time to chase after a different project now.
Yes.
And you often keep yourself very busy with a lot of different creative projects, so I'm excited to see what you attempt to do next. Genuinely so. The other thing, I really like what both of you are saying with the idea of, if you feel that you're in a rut, one of the solutions is to recontextualize your goalposts or finish line of success. It will seem like it's impossible if you pick a mountain that is miles and miles and miles away off in the distance, and every day you're judging yourself based off of not reaching that mountain that day. That is a surefire way to either burn yourself out or really fuck yourself up. That doesn't mean that you should live entirely in the now. I have definitely leaned sometimes harder into the existing in the now because the future can be a little intimidating or very nebulous, especially through COVID. When you don't know things are going to end, it's hard to gauge. But I think that is a really, really good mechanism for, trying to do that kind of stuff. And I'd say I'd add on the top of that, while that is one way of like solving a rut, another one is to change something. If you want to get out of a rut, you should adjust what you're doing and maybe decide if something is holding you back or pushing you forward or motivating you or not motivating you.
I wanted to answer Crow1224's question, which is, it's hard as hell to keep going. I've had failure after failure after failure after failure, and there doesn't seem to be anything positive. What am I doing wrong? Weirdly enough, I've had to solve this for companies, and I usually go, okay, it's because you often, or people, I don't want to say you in general, but what people sets people up to failure is that, I'll give an analogous example. If I run a D&D show, trying to compare myself to the success of Critical Role in a single day is going to set myself up for that. Because that's really, really, really hard. Like Kai said about like looking at the mountain, right? Like there is that saying that, the journey, something like the journey towards a mountain begins with a single step, right? When I break down how do you do this thing, like whether you have an acting career or I want to build a portfolio or I want to have like this big career, you have to pare it down to like, what can you do first? What's an actual easy, not easy, but what's a physical thing that you can do? Like, let's say I want to travel to Japan. Great. The first thing you do is not fly to Japan. The first thing you do is you look up tickets. You look at the price of tickets. With that knowledge, you can figure out where to go. Sometimes you have to redefine what you consider success. And so maybe it's not having 100 people watch your channel. Maybe it's putting it even on. That fact that you put it on, you learn things each time. I've had this channel for a while. I'm still learning things, like every single time. And even like Zach over at Hyper RPG, like he tells me things change all the time, and he's learning. And he has like a channel of 100,000 people, and it's like if someone like that is constantly learns, it's sort of like then I know that that I'm doing more than okay. Like if he has to study these things, and
Yep.
sometimes that perspective is important.
Yep. I've got three things to add. First off, about the whole failure after failure after failure after failure. Literally anybody in the creative industry's story.
Mm-hmm.
Literally,
Yeah.
Yep.
literally. You can read every actor's story. There's always 1,000 auditions for that
Mm-hmm.
one that made that break.
Yep.
And to Kelly's point, that she also posted, Kelly D'Angelo, she also wrote that with those big breaks also comes from the networking that you do.
Yes.
So what I was going to suggest that if you're feeling like you're failing after you're failing and you're failing, you're wondering what's wrong, have a third party opinion. Go rely on a friend that maybe is in the career path that you want to do and say, hey, I've been doing X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z isn't working. Can you help me to understand what's going on? Now you've built a dialogue, you've built a trust, and if that is the person, the career path that you want to be, then try to surround yourself with those people and start trying to have the same mindset as them, right? And then the other thing, as I think everybody mentioned, is reframing the issue. It's not a failure. Always look at it as an opportunity. What did you gain from that failure? What did you learn from that so that you can change your outcome, much like what Kai said, next time? It may be something real small of like, hey, I went to an audition and I have curly hair and I didn't get the audition. Oh, they were asking for straight hair. Let me put a wig on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just changing little things of yourself. That was like a like stupid easy
Mm-hmm.
thing, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Changing little things in your matricy, if you will, for math nerds, will help you get a different outcome. So
With
yeah,
well, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go for it.
Okay. To piggyback off you what you just said, there's a really good adage. I think it's an adage.
Mm-hmm.
But here we go. The master has failed more times than the apprentice has ever attempted.
Oh, that's good.
That is something I really like it, and
I
I know
like
I've dropped
it.
it
I
a
love
couple of
that.
times. I know I've dropped it a couple of times on the podcast in the past, because you only see other people's successes. You don't see their mistakes. Small mistakes are things that while you're working on a project, you can pivot and change and then adjust. The bigger failures are the more catastrophic ones, the ones that actively stop what you're doing. And those are less common, but they do, in their own right, teach you from those things. If you fail or you feel that you're set back by something, try to learn how that happened. Learning and then working against that in the future, using that experience. It's literally leveling up in an RPG. Like learning in Dark Souls how to beat a monster involves getting your ass kicked a couple of times by the monster to understand its pattern. The world is similar to Dark Souls in the fact that it will kick your ass. So going in blind can be a bit daunting, but try to arm yourself with experience, be it your experience of the failures you've had, or, as Sin said, tapping those other professionals who have already traveled that path and they've succeeded.
Yeah. There are a
Yeah.
couple of like sayings that I kind of want to throw in there too. One is comes from Jesse Heinig. A game
Who's that?
He's a game developer. Like he actually created one of the earlier buffers, like Dying Kingdoms.
Okay.
And and his quote was, "Everything that everything in your life that is not a success is experience."
Mm.
Which is like I'm like
Accurate.
that, very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one comes from Adam Savage from MythBusters, and that is, um, failure is a success in knowing that something did not work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I kind of like that too.
I mean, that's literally engineering. Engineering is a string of failures until you have the single success. You keep changing your process until you get it right.
Yeah.
But
And-
so, go ahead, Kai.
Oh, I was going to say, and the process of experiencing all of that and learning from it is part of the journey. And like, I mean, for our viewers, literally viewers rather than our listeners, I have a tattoo on my arm to remind myself of one of my favorite stories. It's a Chinese story called Journey to the Journey to the West,
Mhm.
and it's very, very much focused on the idea that the journey is more important than the destination. Like, you learn so much on the journey, and it brings joy and wealth to your life, kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of substance in the experience of what you're doing, and keeping those lessons close is really valuable. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. So what I was gonna do is gonna do a rapid fire question to you guys just to kind of show that even us on here have failed bagillions of times, right? So like for me as a dancer, I'm gonna just go real quick. I auditioned for the Lego Girls 3 times, 4 times. I auditioned for So You Think You Can Dance 4 times. I auditioned for Universal Studios about 6 times. I auditioned for Disneyland about 10 times. I had my own dance company for about 3.5 years. I worked as a dancer choreographer in LA for over a decade, and now I'm a TTRPG role player. So
Mm-hmm.
I have failed a bagillion times as a dancer, but all of those were a freaking good adventure, and I kept learning a lot about myself and about how to work the audition circuit. And then I just got tired of it because you get old and everything hurts. So there you go. That's my failure story as a dancer. Ryan, go.
Oh, okay, so the number of times I've sent resumes. Okay, so to talk about really huge failure, um, so after leaving my secure job, because of a conspiracy to get fired, because unfortunately I looked like I was 18 to try to get and I was commanding people who were 50. They didn't like that, so they were going to try to get me fired. I left before I did that. So I tried to find jobs in my industry like on management. I sent resumes everywhere, everywhere. I went through my entire savings. I went through my entire retirement. I lost my apartment. I lived out of a van. I was homeless for a while. I wanted to kill myself. I literally lost everything. And then, just because I happened to put things out there, I applied for an assistant job. I was like, okay, I don't know what else I can do. I'm gonna be an assistant until I could figure things out. Uh, I drove with the last of my gas to LA, went to that job, and I landed the job. Um, so I know that nothing in my life will ever be that bad again.
Kai, do you have any story you would like to share?
Oh, right. Sorry, I was kind of struck humble dumb on what Ryan was saying there.
Yeah.
Entirely forgot that I actually have to share things now. I am struggling right now to think of something. Actually, no. So in order to start my LARP, in terms of failure kind of thing, I ran my LARP full bore for about a year, where I focused on just doing that. And I ran an event every month, and I put my heart and soul into it. And even though there were quite a few games where I knew I was like losing a lot of money on it, the idea was to kind of keep going and keep the momentum going, and like kind of impact on it. And in terms of failure, I feel like that first year was a lot of success, but ultimately it did involve a failure right at the end, because I had my venue entirely taken away from me, because of a fire that wasn't even anything to do with us. Some arsonists snuck onto site after we had locked up and torched the building, and that got the entire venue kind of like closed down, which it definitely felt like a punishment, especially after all of the good things that we had been kind of feeling like we'd been doing, and the gamble of like really pushing hard on that momentum. Um, Things can kind of come out of nowhere. There's a lot that you don't really have control over. And one of the things that I personally regret about that kind of year of doing it, especially because of the fact that I you know, I lost that momentum. I think I might have gotten some of that momentum back because of COVID, because that was kind of a great universal equalizer for everything. However, I turned down a huge amount of potential jobs within the special effects industry, and I kind of put a lot of that behind myself. And I don't know if our listeners especially know, but when you get called for a gig as a special effects kind of artist or something, and you're working in a shop, if they call you and you say I can't, I'm busy, or something like that, they generally won't really call again unless they really actually liked you. So once you get taken off enough kind of call lists, or they bump you down further down those lists, you stop getting calls. And I stopped getting calls, which really hurt once the building caught fire, and then suddenly I needed to get back into doing some of that work, and I found it very difficult to do so. That definitely felt like me falling flat on my face and taking a gamble with something. But even though it was quite a bit of bitter experience, it still was a lot of good experience as well, and I learned a lot from all of that. And that's why it's important to kind of take the punches with the dodges and the victories and defeats, and kind of look at the greater whole of what are you learning from these things.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Before I forget, I want to thank Wes IRL for donating like 10 gift subs. Thank you so much.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Wes. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Woo.
Another saying that I heard, which I always thought was funny because it was like so visual, and that is, if you look in the middle of an operation with someone's insides opened out, like everything looking bloody, if you look at just the center of it, it looks like a failure. You haven't gotten to the end where you successfully saved somebody. So don't analyze the pathway to your success as a failure because you're still going through it.
That is a good mental image to end this episode. So let's kind of go around. Where can we find you, Kai, and what is going on in your realm?
Okay, where can you find me? I'm Yokai Props on most of the internet, I guess. I don't have anything especially going on right this moment. We're still doing site negotiation and kind of trying to, figure everything out for when we are next going to run an event. But we've been tapping our community, and we're going to try and keep them in the know for all of that jazz. I will add one just quick thing. There is a speech by Neil Gaiman, as in the famous author. I know my accent sometimes makes it sound like Neil Diamond. I'm not saying Neil Diamond. I'm saying Neil Gaiman, the author of Sandman. He has an amazing 20-minute speech on YouTube called Make Good Art. I've watched it many times. I really, really encourage every single listener on this podcast to listen to it at some point in time soon. It doesn't matter if you're an artist or not. Trust me, you will find some degree of relevance in it. I am almost certain of that, and I think it will maybe help you with some of your possible doubt in yourself. It is well worth listening to.
Right on, right on. Ryan, what about you? What's going on in your realm, and where can people find you?
All right. Well, people can generally find me on several shows here on twitch.tv/live-action-roleplay. I'm going to show a little bit of what is coming up next. So there's going to be that does not work for what I was planning to do, but that's okay. So some boardroom Armageddon games are coming up. So Purgatory Cafe on November 11th, which is a Thursday. November 16th, Tuesday, is going to be Boardroom Fate Court. November 18th, Thursday, is going to be Breaking Bard Hamlet, directed by Kevin Allen. And November 23rd, which is a Tuesday, is going to be a Port Saga Ask Me Anything, because season 1 will have wrapped, and we're going to have our creator again, Rachel J. Wilkinson, as well as several voice actors, as many as we can get, to just kind of go, now that there's no more spoilers, because you'll have listened to it all, like, how was the process of doing this, and what's in store for season 2?
I'm so jelly of that project. It is so awesome.
Yeah.
Sin.
All right, well, I guess I'm the last one.
Yeah.
I have a long list. I actually have written down my outro because it has gotten so flippant long. It's crazy. Goodness. I know.
That's awesome, though.
Okay, so here we go. Y'all can find me on the socials, Twitter at Sindancer, or Instagram Cynthia__Marie, where you can see all my cosplay, my makeup, silly curly hair videos. I don't know, I just keep putting stuff up there. If you want to see my TTRPG stuff, we just wrapped season 5 of LA by Night, where I play Nellie G and also Lucida. So you can go see all of the seasons 1 through 4 on Geek and Sundry / Project Alpha on YouTube, and then seasons 4 through 5 on YouTube World of Darkness. I also play Reina de la Vega on Renegade Studios, or Renegade game. It's called The Nightlife. It's also a Vampire the Masquerade game where we venture into V5 gaming. It's great. Obviously, podcast. Come listen to us again when we have another episode, I think in 2 weeks, right? I am also a Dice affiliate for Die Hard Dice. I have a very exciting news coming up, so stay tuned November 23rd to my social media, where I get to introduce something kind of cool and exciting. As you already know, I'm a dancer and choreographer, systems engineer, and an anxiety warrior. I also make appearances on Hunters Entertainment, World of Darkness, doing a whole bunch of one-shots on the official stuff. Where else? Gehenna Gaming, Scabby Rooster, The Initiative Order, The Bear Pen. On November 7th, I am playing Prince Madeline on Blood on the Bayou, which is also a Vampire the Masquerade show. So go check out The Bear Pen on November 7th. I will be playing Call of Cthulhu on the Calyx, which is Becca Scott's channel, coming out November 10th. So go catch that. I actually just got my character for that. I'm really excited to play. I'm also going to be appearing in Roll20 Con, also playing Call of Cthulhu with that bronze girl as our DM. So again, very excited to be playing. It is a all-star cast I'm going to be playing with, and it's super awesome. I will be playing Morticia Adams on Gehenna Gaming. We're going to be doing a campaign of Curse of Strahd with all the monster moms, so including Morticia, Lily Munster, Elvira, and we're introducing Lydia to the world, and also the Brightest Frankenstein. So come check us out there. That's going to be mid-November-ish.
What class are you?
Druid. I figured with all of the roses and vines and stuff like that, I'm gonna play with the Druid class. I never played Druid, so it's gonna be very interesting to play. I also wrote some special characters for Apotheos Studios in the Red Opera deck of many possibilities, as well as Siren the Battle of the Bard book. Say that 3 times fast. So that's where I got to kind of stretch my creative writing skills for a minute there, and it was really exciting. Oh no, I have one more game. I'm playing on Gods of Color, and I play a bard. That is I forgot what channel it is. I'll get you guys a channel. It's on my social media. It hasn't come out yet. We're just doing all the behind the scenes stuff. Our session 0, session 1 I think is gonna be in January. So when that happens, I'll let you know. Woo! Now I'm done.
Damn.
Damn, playing enough games, Sid?
Not nearly enough, guys. Not nearly enough.
Not nearly enough. And
and if you're coming to LARP,
that's right.
Come find us. I'll be honest, I have not peopled in 2.5 years, so it might be a little bit rougher on me. Also, I don't recognize people in masks, so if you think that I know you, and I should probably know you, still come up and say hi and say your name, because I can't recognize people in masks.
Yep.
Oh yeah, if you're coming to Twin Mask, same here. Say hi. I'll be the guy in the red coat.
For once, Twin Mask, the name is absolutely laser on point, because you have the mask of your character, and then you have your mask for COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and let's find someone to raid. Oh, I see. A Style Pixie is on,
Yes.
and yeah, Erica's great. Oh my goodness. So
Mm-hmm.
we're just gonna put a raid call for her, like, and just say hi. You're like, we don't necessarily have to have a raid call. We're just gonna say hi. I'm gonna also like put on the credits for all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much because of you will be able to. I'm able to create shows, so thank you so much because this is a putting on shows like is a wonderful thing, but it does take time, energy, and resources. Paying certain bills in order to make sure that these things run. So thank you so much, our Patreon supporters. And until next
You
time,
are awesome.
bye.
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 Bye.